Hello, my name is Dr. Scott Young, and today we're going to talk about NESARA and after the red pill. Coming right up. So this is a big topic. We are in, November 8th, so really near Veterans Day of 2021. And we're all eagerly awaiting that red pill moment. And that is the subject of a book I am in the middle of writing. And I'm writing furiously, guys. I'm trying, you have no idea how much effort it takes to write a book. I'm on my 16th, 17th book. I can't remember the exact number. This is one of the books that are on NESARA. It's called NESARA and the Mark of the Beast. You can find it at drscottyoung.com. And then we also finished, this is coming out really soon here. So apologize if it's not up there, but it is an 8-part video series on NESARA. So if you want to know a lot more about it, and by the way, the world is going to ask some questions, and you're going to feel like you're hearing the question a million times, even with your own friends. Guess what happens to me? I've already been hearing those things 100,000 times too. You need to be prepared for these answers, okay? Because people are going to freak. And let's go backward a little bit. We're in this phase where a lot of people don't know anything about what's happening. And I use some orange lights in the background. This is my little orange light setup here because I'm trying to say we're at that orange phase, right about ready to happen. And the military's been out there doing their job, and we want them to do that. We're waiting for that moment that, boom, the thing flips over into an EBS. When that EBS hits, I promise you, you're going to know about it. People ask, am I going to know about it? Yeah, you're going to know about it. The world's got to unhear it. And they're going to first hear about the corruption that's happening. We have systemic level corruption, stuff that has been just gross happening around us with the mainstream media, the social media, the big tech, the government, Hollywood. All of them are just, they're freaks, okay? Not every single person there. Just stick with me for a second on that point. But it's really most of them, and it's a systemic level with that too. That's why I talk about systemic. Systemic is a medical term saying that it's happening throughout the body. You can have an infection in your finger, and you can treat that with some antiviral kind of thing or antibacterial kind of medication. Maybe it's just a topical thing. But when you have a potential systemic infection, that's something going on further than that. And that's what we're dealing with. And so you've got to spread that to the whole body. Okay? I had a kid ask me about this the other day. She goes, my physician will never get me the right sinus medication. And I'm like, well, tell me what you mean. She goes, well, when I have green or yellow snot. And I'm like, as soon as you get green or yellow snot, that's infected sinuses. Okay? That's something that an antibiotic is actually going to fix and help. And you have to do it systemically because you're starting to feel it all over your body. Well, that has to happen throughout the body of America, the body politic, in another way of thinking about that. And at that point in time, the hero worship that you have is going to just drop to nothing. And your friends are going to feel that same way too. It's the dude that you've been listening to on TV for the mainstream media. It's the person on social media that you've been fascinated by. It's the business owner type that you've been modeling your own business type after. It's Hollywood. It's the actor or the guy you voted for in your state senate, your national senate, all those kinds of things. It's all of that stuff that happens. And this has to die. It absolutely has to die. And by the way, all things die. I mean, Ecclesiastes has great conversations about, all things die, all things grow again. There's summer and winter. It's all that, it's all related to them. Now, the first step that happens in there is a shock. I mean, and some people are frankly not going to recover from the shock. And we've known this for a very long time, that when they see that shock, and that's why they've been dribbling this stuff to you, okay? And that shock is going to hit people, and it's going to put them on the floor because everything that they believed in, everything that they hoped for is dropping away. That is a tough situation that will happen. Now, secondarily, they will look into the next phase is called belief or disbelief, excuse me. They're looking for someone to corroborate a story. This happens all the time. Okay, so you come up with a new belief about, and I'm making up something kind of crazy, like how you should throw a football. And you're a kid and you have a coach who will put you through some different processes. And you're trying to figure out, is this really right? I mean, he's throwing you a new way of throwing that football. And you might look for some corroborating evidence. You're not saying that, you're not thinking that necessarily, but you're looking for that connection with other people who have the same kind of throwing motion. That is exactly what's going to happen. And that's the hard part of how we look at truth. We look at it from a democratic level. Enough people believe it, therefore it must be true. And that's absolutely opposite of any way that we should be looking at truth. Truth is what I call a veritas. Now, I know we have Project Veritas, and that's not exactly what I mean here. What they're pulling is they're pulling a Greek word called verify. When you verify something, you check it over to make sense and ensure that the research lines up with your belief. And when you have that belief, it becomes a point of truth. Now, there are things that we don't know about, okay? And I'm talking all about NESARA kind of areas in here. Now, lastly, a couple other areas we're going to see is we're going to see anger. What these people are going to struggle with in that red pill event is an anger. They have been lied to. Now think about these far right and actually far left groups. Both sides are going to be involved in this, and they're going to struggle. If you watch The Matrix, the second movie, when he hits to the mainframe, he shows some of the most amazing information with Neo and the creator of the mainframe. They're in there, and he's got this white beard, white kind of, jacket kind of look to him. And what he's doing is he's telling about the truth of the situation, and he totally disbelieves it. And he has to come to a point of agreement with what the reality of the world is like. And sometimes when you come there, you come with significant anger because you're mad that someone's been lying to you. And then when you come to levels of acceptance, don't think it just happens overnight. It's sometimes you move back and forth through these phases. These are typically talked about as phases of grief or stages of grief, but my wife is working on something right now as we speak on a new type of way of looking at grief, and I think this is going to be some powerful stuff out there. Now, when the new situation occurs, we're going to see a lot of things hitting almost all at once. Now, they will hit at once, or they will happen in phases. The debt forgiveness will be there. It's a debt jubilee. And we have people that argue with me. I'm like, okay, so this guy's got a ton of debt, but he makes a lot of money. And this guy's got very little money overall, but very little debt. How is that fair? And I'm like, dude, calm down, okay? I mean, if you're going to worry about how it's not fair, my dad used to say when I was growing up, I didn't say the world is going to be fair. Okay? It's not going to be fair necessarily in that way. But the person who has lived with little debt has probably lived within his or her means. And when that person lives within the means that they have, they're going to actually be farther along than the person who has been living in a debt economy. And that is one of the areas that I'm going to be dealing with quite a bit in this book. And it's called, right now, the working title is Revelations After the Red Pill, NESARA and Money. But when we think about a debt economy versus a grace type of economy, and I'm going to say it that way, and you might not like that, and people might not use that. I'm just going to say it this way, because what grace happens, it first happens because something's been released from you. It's a gift that you didn't necessarily deserve. And it releases from you. And then one of the things, when you start to accept that gift, you're able to give to other people. And that's really one of the things I'm hoping for, that people walk into that situation. But when you live in a debt economy, that lines perfectly up with the government lies. It lines perfectly up with the media lies and the Hollywood lies. All of those lies that are out there, it lines up to that. If you look at lie in the Word of God, what you'll find, it's like a dude that's kind of looking far off and something that he really wants, and it's gleaming and it's on a pile. So he kind of gets closer and he's focusing on that little gleaming thing, but he doesn't realize he's climbing up a pile of manure. Okay? And then he walks up to it and goes, oh, this is gross. And then he looks around and it's like, I'm standing in poop. Okay, it sounds like a Joe Biden event. But the reality is that's what he's doing. Okay? And that's what lie happens. And we get away, we wash ourselves, and then we go back into the same thing again, and we have the same problem. It becomes that overall issue. That's the plastic environment. Now when we move into what I call a grace economy, or cash is king, where we have a value-based economy, we're valuing the money. You'll see that you won't necessarily value the items, the things that it can get you, because the value is in the money. Now, I'm not saying I'm loving the money. Don't do that to me, because I know a lot of you will say, the root of all evil is money. Well, no. The root of all types of evil is based in that point of money. But it doesn't, money is a vehicle, guys. Don't think of it anything else. Every time I talk to people who are poor and I talk to people who are rich, and I'm going to get a lot of groups that kind of interact here. And the reality is, do you know that the poor and the rich both talk about money more than anyone else? It's fascinating. They're focused so much on it. And it becomes, then we have people that are beating it up all the time, and I'm like, all money is a vehicle. There's nothing else to it, okay? It's a vehicle to get you from point A to B. That's it. You have to have it. Everyone knows you have to have it. God knows you have to have it. So don't worry about it. And I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it, but I think about how that stuff is going to interact. When the value of the economy happens, it's going to change your buying habits. Because you're not going to be sitting there worrying about the value of the money. You're going to be looking at the purchasing power within the money, which means you're going to see prices go down while the value of the cash goes up. Because what we're dealing with right now in this sick administration is that the value, or the prices go up while the value of the money just tanks. That's why when people worry about this $1.9 trillion thing and a $5 trillion thing there, like, you know what? It's all funny money. It's all going to be going out just with the baby with the bathwater kind of thing. It's monopoly money. And once it's finished, and that actually occurs in the EO Executive Order 13818, Executive Order 13848. Those two fix a lot of the stuff that is the backdrop of NESARA. And when we see that stuff happening, so the debt will go away, we'll see a value flipping into a new type of monetary stance. It's not the mark of the beast. If you want to look at that, NESARA and the mark of the beast, Dr. Scott Young, trust me, you need to check that out if you're really worried about that. Of course, it's a digital money, but it doesn't mean you're not going to have a physical money. And there's going to be a lot of these questions, but I want you to think about the time frame. Stop looking at this moment in time, depending on when you're watching this. Think about after. What is it going to be like after? Okay. When I talk about marriage mentoring, I have a friend of mine, Barbara and Brian Turner, and there are these wonderful group of people that helped Wendy and I be marriage mentors. And the big thing that young couples need to learn as before they get married is they're always focusing on, this is what it's going to be like to have her in my bed. Okay, they're thinking about the sex.
Sorry.
They're thinking about all the crazy things. Oops, my system going off here. But they're thinking about all of that stuff to that point. But they're not thinking about through that point, which is the key element that they need to be thinking afterward, okay? After that event occurs. And that's what makes a good marriage, okay? And that's exactly where we need to be thinking about as well. So irrespective of my iWatch going off and go crazy with that too, hope this helps you out. You're gonna have a lot of questions. I'm sure I'm happy to answer them. I won't be able to answer everything because do I know everything? I wish I did, okay? I wish everyone would tell me what everything's happening. But I'm trying my best with lots and lots of research here. So thank you so much, I appreciate it a bunch.